Welcome to It's Your Life with host Joyce Wheeler, who will empower you to live a happy, healthy, natural life. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
2016, you're listening to Haggy Shack Radio and Wolf Spirit Radio. Please remember we're listener sponsored, so click on that donate button and show us some love. Today I have here a guest that I actually had on before, Heidi Feather, and she's been a student of herbs since she was a child. She was introduced by herbs by both her grandmothers, and her education became more formal when she worked at Wise Ways Herbs for 2 years. She gained her certification in the therapeutic herbalism through Blazing Star Herbal School and has studied with Susan Weed. Several years ago, her friend introduced her to spinning wool. She fell in love with it, and within a month, she had her own spinning wheel. She has been a student of the herbs for more than 15 years and knew many of them could be used as dye. In fact, they are the first dyes. She combined her passion of the herbs with her crafty side. All of her yarn is hand spun and hand dried by Heidi. 99% of the herbs are wild crafted by her for her dye cauldron. Herbs are an important part of her heritage. They beg to not be forgotten and not to be thought of as weeds. Hi, Heidi, are you here with me?
I am here with you. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. How are you?
A little tired. I did a lot of work today, but it was wonderful to get out in the fields and harvest a little St. John's wort and, just breathe in the air, and it's lovely.
Well, thank you for being back on the show. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So tonight we were gonna talk a little bit about Herbalism 101. Can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so as far as Herbalism goes, 101, you wanted to discuss some herbs and some harvesting?
Yeah, I thought I'd start at the beginning and talk about ethical wild crafting, because I think it's important. Because especially I've seen people that don't know what they're doing, and they'll just go chop down the whole plant. And I'm like, that wasn't very nice. Yeah. Well, it depends on the plant. But,
right.
Ethically, we should only take this percentage-wise, but I also think you have to really take in consideration, how much of the plant is growing? Is it invasive? Do you want it to come back? Things like that. Like today I was gathering St. John's wort, and it's pretty plentiful, but still I didn't take all the flowers off off of just one plant. I took a little from one plant, went on to the next plant, took a little more, then, so I didn't strip the whole plant because I want that to reseed for another year, because it grows with roots, but it also reseeds itself when the flowers go to seed. So even though, it grows plentifully, I want that to continue. So I will make sure that even one plant, the way it grows, has a little bit of flowers on it left. So I want to go in, gather what I want, and look like I haven't even been there, except maybe an educated person could tell. And that's the way I like to harvest my plants. The trees you prune and things like that. There are opportunities when they came along to cut down trees along the side of the road here for the power lines. I took that opportunity and said, before they chipped it back up, I said, I'll take that tree off of your hands. And they were more than happy to oblige. So things like that work, that are going to be cut down anyway. Invasive species, people really don't mind, but I invasive species are usually pretty medical, and so they're really important.
I'm sorry, Feather. We seem to have lost Joyce. She's back up now. Let's see if we can get her back. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let us see. We're calling her. So you said these invasive ones are more medically, what do you want to say?
They have medical purposes. I just got done reading a book called Invasive Plant Medicine. I can't remember the author right now, but I can find it. But if you look up invasive plant medicine, you'll find a book, and a lot of what we consider invasive are kind of like he explained it like Band-Aids. They're the ones that will go into disturbed areas and basically lay down the foundation for other plants to come in, and even the native species will eventually go into that area, and a lot of them are very medical.
Wow. That's amazing.
It is. And one example is, I'm not sure if you have it like down south or up north, but it's a Japanese bamboo type plant, and it's very invasive, but it seems to come into places that have Lyme disease before the Lyme disease comes in. And they have found that the root has healed people, and even flower essences have healed people from Lyme disease.
Wow.
So yeah, I just love this book. If you're into plants, I highly recommend reading that book. It's amazing.
I've written it down. I've got a stack of about 20 books here. So. Okay, Joyce, you're back.
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry. I accidentally hit something and I was gone. It's like I can't touch nothing, obviously, because it was just adjusted. I hit the button, and next thing I know, I'm shutting the tablet down. So what was that plant, Heidi, that you were just talking about?
It's a Japanese bamboo.
Katsu?
No, not katsu. It's
okay.
But that's another one that's very invasive. That the root is used in Japanese. Love the root of that, and it's because it's very alkalizing. I believe it's alkalizing. Don't get me wrong. I think to the blood. So that's really a great plant too, because I know you have that all over the South.
No, actually it's not. I'm in Louisiana. We have no kudzu here in Louisiana. Now, when I lived in West Tennessee, there was kudzu.
Well, that to me, West Tennessee is the South.
Well, West Tennessee is the South, but Louisiana is the South too.
Yeah.
It's not here. And as a matter of fact, I don't know that I've ever seen it in Mississippi or Alabama. I can't recall ever seeing it, but I have seen it in West Tennessee. And actually, when I was in school, I had to do a report on something, and kudzu was one of my options. So being that I was in West Tennessee, I decided I'm going to take kudzu. And actually what I learned is the way that kudzu came to the United States was, as you said, it's Japanese, was through a World's Fair. They had a World's Fair, and they brought the kudzu in as kind of like an ornamental plant, was how it was brought here and introduced. But like you said, it's very invasive. But at the same time, kudzu is really cool because it'll grow over trees and grow over things, and it kind of changes the shape of, what it originally was. So like a silo, covered in kudzu, it might give it the look of something else. I remember there was one tree in Tennessee that was covered in kudzu, and it looked like a dinosaur. So it kind of, it kind of gives another thing. And then, one thing I found out too when I was doing the research for my school paper was you could actually eat kudzu. And
I would think so.
And they would actually make baskets out of it. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, so it's, but it's hard to kill. It's It's not an easy plant to kill.
Well, they have it in Connecticut, and it
Really?
could really easily migrate here, I'm sure, within the next 10 years or so. I don't think it would take much since it's such an invasive. If it can handle the winters in Connecticut, then I'm sure it will do it here eventually.
Now, I know that during the wintertime it goes dormant.
Yeah, it must.
Well, it does in West Tennessee anyhow.
Right.
Now, I don't know. Are there different species?
That I don't know. I haven't got into. Usually most plants, they do have slightly different species, so there might be different variations.
Right.
You know, St. John's wort has, like, I'm just thinking that because it's in flower now, has different variations also. Someone gave me a more ornamental type of St. John's wort. The hypocum is a Latin name for that, and there's all kinds of hypercum plants.
Have you heard of, now I don't know if it's peppermint lavender or lavender peppermint. Have you ever heard of that?
No, it sounds like a hybrid.
Somebody down here that I ran into at the farmer's market, she said she has some growing. So,
I know there's millions of varieties of mint.
right.
You know, like I've heard chocolate, apple, you know, peppermint, those, but there's different flavors of mint. It almost sounds like that might be a type of mint, but she said it's a lavender.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's why it interested me, was because of the fact that it was lavender. That's what I said.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's like, yeah, I wonder if if it has menthol, because that's what that gives that peppermint is the menthol.
Right.
That gives it that note. And then lavender is kind of similar, so I suppose anything's possible in crossbreeding.
Right. I don't know how she came about it or whatnot, but she had told it to me, and I was just like, wow. Now, I just pulled something up on the computer. It looks like a mint. 17 varieties of mints.
Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah, I would think so. So it doesn't look like I'm really finding anything on here, just from glancing. It's more of excuse me, more of like buying it, like if you're interested in purchasing it. Looks to be more of what it is. Lavender peppermint oil for hair, for headache. Huh. For fleas.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Shampoo, tea. Well, it looks pretty interesting. She actually said she'd give me some of it, and so I wanted to look and see what I might be able to use it for. So we were talking the other day, and you were talking about, or I should say you were venting about dandelion and how people harvest dandelions.
Right. Well, that goes in using the right part of the plant at the right time, basically. And not to say that using it at the wrong time you don't get benefits, but sometimes I think people, this goes into over-the-counter, don't believe herbs work because they're not getting the proper, it's not properly harvested. So, for instance, the dandelion, the root is where there's medical value throughout the whole dandelion plant, but when you harvest a root, if you're harvesting and you want to use the root, right, of the dandelion plant, you want to harvest that when all the energy of that plant is in the root, and that would be in spring or fall, or if you live in a place where you can get to it in the winter. That is when the medicine is the most potent in the root. And dandelion is great for helping with get things out of the body. And so I was looking, for a good dandelion root tea, and I'm looking, and it says, oh, we remove the flowers from our dandelion root, and I'm thinking, So, if you go over the counter and buy something, it may have been harvested in the height of summer where there's hardly any medicine in the root because it's all gone into the flower and the leaves. That's why, like, later in spring, when the leaves come up, people will eat the dandelion leaves. And then later, it flowers, and you can harvest the flowers to make dandelion wine, which my dad did years ago. And someday I'm going to open a bottle of it.
So how long do you have to let that ferment?
I don't remember. I know it's something you do like a vat, and then you pour it into wine bottles.
So how long has it been fermenting?
Oh, it's been in the wine bottles for about 30 years or so.
30 years? And nobody's opened it?
No.
Wow, you're not curious about it?
Yeah, I am. I was waiting for the right moment with the right people, I think. This is going to be good. It's either going to be really good or it's going to be really bad.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see how that turns out.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I do think my nephew opened some, and I think it was okay. I don't know if he liked it or not, but I don't think it was bad or anything that had an alcohol content to it.
Okay, so now correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you can harvest the various parts of the dandelion root the various parts of the dandelion at various stages, but when it comes to the roots, that's
right.
what you're saying you basically, if you're going to use the root. Now, what do they use the root for?
The root is used as, let's see, dandelion root is full of inulin, and it's really good for your liver. It's a good natural diuretic. So it's really good that's why, also people like the leaves because they say it's good after a long winter of eating heavy foods and stuff. So dandelion is good for, water diuretic is water retention, but it's also good for weight gain. It helps release things, So it's really a good all-around for that. So the root is really good for that. And usually the greens are used as like a spring tonic or put into spring salads. And some people even eat the flowers when they flower. They fry.
That's what I've heard of. I've heard of people like using the flowers and like mixing them in with a salad.
Yep.
Or eating them by themselves.
Yep.
I've heard of people frying them like fried green tomatoes, too.
Oh, yep. Really?
I've heard of that, too.
Are they breading them?
Do what?
Mm-hmm.
Are they putting a breading on them?
Yeah.
Yep. Really?
Mm-hmm. Dip them in an egg and flour and, yeah.
Have you had them?
I've not eaten any yet.
Oh, I want to
But
try.
I wouldn't be adverse to trying it.
Oh, me either.
No, me neither. I've never tried it either. Never, Have
you heard about that?
Yeah, definitely.
See, I've never heard that. This is the first.
There's all kinds of recipes. There's books on wild foraging, so what, edibles. So it's considered one of the edibles, which is, just as well good for you. So that's why sometimes I think plants don't work. That people think plants don't work because they don't get the right pots at the right time. Another one is echinacea. Again, the most medical properties is in the root. Am I still on?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. It sounded different.
You've got what's quiet, huh? I was just listening to you talk.
Oh, okay. So I was talking about echinacea, and again, not that there isn't value in the flowers when they're flowering, but you want the root either in the springtime or the fall. That's when it's most powerful. case in point, I had an ear infection, and this was probably close to 10 years ago now. And I cured it with echinacea. A few years ago, I had another one, and I could not get in under it, even though I was using copious amounts of echinacea. And I think it's because the bigger companies probably were not harvesting at the right time, so I was probably not getting a really good echinacea root. And I should, and I think that's why I couldn't get under that infection. I had to go to an antibiotic, which is awful.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Why not go to oil of oregano?
Oh, because by the time I tried to heal it by myself, it had been 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, I have to, and it had gone into both ears, and it was in my instations tubes, and I was just like,
miserable.
I said, I don't want to go, I don't want to go that route, but it was like, that was at that point. But if I had made the medicine myself, I think I would have been able to get under it. But I don't have any echinacea growing, so I hadn't made any.
Right. Now let's go back to the dandelion for a second. Okay, so we have dandelions that are growing. At this point in time, what can we harvest from them? The flowers?
Depends if they are flowering. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But we would want to leave the stem and the root, though, correct?
Right.
Okay, so we could just take the flower. What about the leaves?
The leaves, they usually don't recommend by the time the plant flowers because they can be tough and stringy and the flavor is not so good. But, I have heard of people using the leaves along with the flowers in a tincture.
Okay. So a tincture, we know what a tincture is. Maybe some of the people listening don't. Can you explain to us what a tincture is?
Tincture is a natural extraction, and it's usually made with some type of alcohol, usually a grain alcohol. Personally, I like brandy. Most people use vodka, but you would take a quart-sized canning jar, fill it full of the plant material, and then cover it with 50% water and 50% alcohol. That's the standard. When I make it, I use brandy, which is a little bit lower in alcohol than the vodka, so I just do the whole brandy on the...
So you do the whole jar brandy?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how long does that sit for?
About 6 weeks is the norm.
So it needs to be in a cool, dark place. I mean, out of direct sunlight, correct?
That's what I usually do. Yeah.
Right.
I just let it set and then go to it and voila.
And now, if people don't want to use alcohol for some reason, you can also use vegetable glycerin. Now, I've never used vegetable glycerin, but if you use vegetable glycerin, Heidi, would you still do the 50% water, 50% glycerin, or could you do all vegetable glycerin?
I think you do all vegetable glycerin. I'm not sure. I haven't done that's something I've always used the alcohol myself.
Right.
So I've never used, like you, I've never used the glycerin myself. And I don't recall that even at where I worked that we used it either, so.
I've just always read and heard that it could be an option. So like if somebody has a problem with alcohol and they don't want to, have that, they can use
and it for younger kids too. And yes, you can use vinegar, Colleen. Definitely. I like using vinegar as a preservative and an extractor. And vinegars are great, for example, for foot baths. I gave a woman some St. John's wort vinegar I made, and she loves it for a foot bath. She loves that. That's great. 'Cause this is nerve.
If you're going to create a tincture, with vinegar, would it be just like infusing vinegar and with other herbs, like say basil and garlic and stuff like that you can pour in a salad?
It's just an edible herb. Yeah.
Right. So what would be the difference if you wanted to do that? Would it be, what would be the difference between an infusion and a tincture if you're using the olive oil? From what I know, a tincture always, one of the things that makes a tincture is that it does use alcohol as its base.
Yeah. Yeah, and an oil it's not totally different, but an oil is used for different purposes.
Right.
An oil is usually, I usually make an oil to make into a salve.
Into what?
To make a salve.
Oh, to make a salve. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do the same thing too. And I should have stuck to the vinegar and I went to oil because that's what I infuse is the olive oil. But like with the vinegar, I've never heard of using vinegar. What is Colleen saying? If people are worried about the alcohol.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So instead of using vegetable glycerin, you could just use vinegar. Is that what you're all saying?
Oh, absolutely. That's because sometimes like Colleen asked about people recovering from alcoholism. They can use the vinegar or the glycerin in place of the alcohol.
Right. Huh. I never thought about that. Well, then why not use is it still considered a tincture?
Yes.
Okay. Now what if you use olive oil? Then it becomes an infusion.
Yeah, that's just you infuse. It's basically terminology, but basically you're extracting the herbal properties,
right,
either with oil, vinegar, glycerin, what have you.
Alcohol. So if you were going to make, oh yeah, definitely the apple cider vinegar. If you were going to make a tincture out of dandelion, would you use the roots? Whole plant.
I would use personally, I would use a root, especially if I wanted the powerful medicine. If it was something I felt like I really needed the strength of the root, I would use the root. I have made the flowers before. Use the flowers and, there is a recipe out there to make a cordial, which is somewhat alcoholic.
My understanding that is it's totally alcoholic.
Yeah.
So what would you use for that? I mean, I would think that when I think of cordial, I would think of like brandy.
It's cordial. I think is sweet because you use sugar. You add sugar to the alcohol and the plant material. If my memory serves me correctly.
I've never looked into it. I was just going by kind of what I do know about cordial.
Yeah, and then sometimes they're made with berries and things like that. Basically, I believe it's infusing an alcohol with berries or plants and adding some sugar.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Does the root of the dandelion have more properties more medicinal properties than we already talked about? You talked about it being a diuretic. It's good for the liver. It can help with weight gain. So does the root offer more medicinal properties?
Yeah, that's your strongest part. It has the most strongest part. It's in the root at the proper time of the year. Yeah, dandelion has many great properties, and it's hard for me to think of all of it right off the top of my head. Everything is the list. Because Colleen just wrote, is it good for... Oops. Are you still there, Colleen? Am I still here?
You're here. We've lost Joyce again.
Joyce again. Oh.
She must have hit that button again.
And she must have.
Yes, I think dandelions, I don't know why people hate them.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
To me, they're like little happy faces all over the yard.
Yeah, I just love them. I love them so much. And I hate those commercials where they go out and kill your dandelions.
Yeah. Why?
Why?
Buy these flowers that you gotta pay a whole bunch of money for that don't have any properties whatsoever except they're pretty.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, to me, it's the first sign of spring, the first flowering usually, and it's so bright and yellow after a dark winter, and it's just the energetic level is just so uplifting to see them growing in the yard.
Oh yeah. And speaking of like, I have had dandelion wine. Now it's very, very sweet. Like you were speaking of before, cordials.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very sweet. But I suppose you could pour some orange juice or something. I don't know. But they're so good for you. I mean, and the whole plant, you want the leaves relatively young so they're not, as you said, tough.
Yep.
But there's so much you can do. You can cook them up like greens and all that stuff.
Yep.
And they're nutritious as well. So, people, eat weeds.
Yes, we got to get you out there eating your weeds.
I do. I mean, my neighbors probably think I'm just like off the wall because I'll bend over, pick up something out of the... I don't want to call it a lawn because it's not manicured. Out of the yard.
Yep.
And eat it. They're like, oh my God, what are you doing? But it's a lot more nutritious than stuff you're buying in the store.
Yep. There's I don't know the proper name. We call it pigweed around here. But it usually shows up in garden patches. Mm-hmm. And that is so loaded with nutrition, and you can stir fry it, do everything like that. Oh, it's so good. It kind of has a sweet sour taste.
Mm-hmm. And they're gorgeous, really.
Yeah.
I don't, if it's growing in my garden, I just let it grow when it gets so big.
Yep.
I just let it grow. It's beautiful, and the bees like it.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I'm, we have a neighbor, well, I guess he lives maybe a block or so away, who, we live in town, but this guy raises bees. Well, most people in town kind of keep their weeds trimmed and the grass mowed and rid of all the dandelions and wildflowers. I don't. So all his bees come to my place to feed and then go back to his place to make the honey.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to find out exactly who he is, because another one of my neighbors was telling me about it. See if we can do a trade.
Exactly.
I'll feed him if you give me honey.
Yep, because I've noticed different bees this year, and I'm pretty sure they're honeybees, so I'm like, okay, who has the hives?
Yeah.
I haven't figured that out yet. So, but like you, with semi-manicured, like, there's places I let grow up and stuff, and, so I have all kind of wildflowers, and it's amazing. And then just watch the bees, they're so happy on the flowers, and...
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll get... there's a brand of cigarettes that I smoke, and about once a year they send to me a thank you sort of thing. And it's wildflowers pressed in paper.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll cut that up in little strips and then wet it all down and just, take the grass off and put those little packet thingies down all throughout my yard.
Nice. I've seen those. I think those are totally cool.
They are.
They have those you can buy as cards, too, to send people as gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you can send them, like, wildflower cards.
You can make them yourself.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Because you just, strips of paper and all that kind of stuff, soak it in water, and then pour it in your blender, and you make that paper mash, and you can spread it out on like a screen so that it dries out, and then just sprinkle the seeds while it's still wet. Sprinkle the seeds in there and let it dry out, and then you've got your own little thingy-majboppers to send to people.
When I was homeschooling my kids, that was something that I had wanted to do, was to be able to, like, make our own paper,
Mm-hmm.
go through the process. You know, at that time I didn't know about the seeds in it, but I think it would have been cool just to be able to make our own paper. But that makes sense. It's basically the same process, but instead of just making paper, you're also incorporating the seeds into it. That's awesome.
It is, because, you know, there's so much paper, especially all the junk mail and all that kind of crap that you get.
Right.
And, you know, you can put leaves and all that in it, and it'll color it. Or, you know, some, like turmeric or something. Your spices and herbs you can use to color it.
Right.
But I used to do it with just, you know, newspaper and wrapping paper and all that kind of stuff.
So you made your own paper?
Oh, yeah. You know, some of it's real artistic. You can use, depending on how much weight you put on it, you know, to flatten it and all of that sort of thing so you can write. But you can also make your own if you're doing watercolor paints or something like that. Because it's got a nice texture and all that kind of stuff. It's an experimental sort of thing. But it's fun, I think.
So you know, you were talking about the leaves. I'm wondering if you couldn't, like, incorporate pressed flowers into that.
Oh, sure you can.
That would be so cool.
You know, especially like the wild violets and things like that are growing in your yard.
Yeah, the tiny little ones.
Yeah, or the wild strawberry blossoms and things. Those are easily pressed, and they look so pretty in there.
I wish I had the time to do that. It sounds like a lot of fun. I wish my kids were younger again and I was still homeschooling to do this stuff. I think actually a lot of the stuff we did while we were homeschooling was because it was stuff that I wanted to do, you know, like the creative kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, this will be fun. Come on, let's do this. Really, it's going to be fun, you know.
Yep.
And I miss that. I miss being able to do that because we did a lot of unique crafting stuff.
You can still do it. Anyway, I'm going to mute because, you know, your guest is Feather, not me. See you in a minute.
Okay, Heidi, now before I landed up pushing the stinking button again.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I have used this tablet for so many shows, and somebody made a comment on the chat, and I went to tilt the tablet down so I can reach the keyboard for the laptop, and all of a sudden I ended up hitting the freaking button. And I'm like, you're kidding me. This is twice that I've done this. Yeah, that's what I did. So I was like, has somebody got some rope? And they're like, why are you at the end of yours? And I'm like, no, I need to tie my hands down so I'll quit hitting that. Now, I know, like, one of the last things I had asked you was if the root had more medicinal purposes than the rest of the plant. And you might have replied, you replied to that, I presume, and I just didn't hear it.
Yes, I did. And what I said, it's a lot stronger in the root when it's at the proper time when it's harvested.
So it still basically has the same medicinal purposes. It's just stronger.
Right. Okay. It's the flower and the leaves are slightly different, but overall it's similar.
Okay, so let's go back to the other one you were talking about. I could see it in my head. And I can't
Echinacea?
remember. Yeah, echinacea. I could see it in my head. I could see the yellowish brownish part in the middle and the pretty purple, purple, flowers. I could see it, but I couldn't think of echinacea. So you were using it to heal earache?
Ear infection.
Ear infection. Okay, is that because is it a natural antibiotic?
Yes, instead a prescribed antibiotic kills bacteria. The echinacea supports the immune system so that the immune system helps balance out so that the bacteria can't survive. and like antibiotic kills everything, it kills good bacteria, bad bacteria, and they are so much super stronger nowadays, the antibiotics, it's unbelievable. So the echinacea basically supports your immune system. The root, it's been I believe in clinical trials, it's been found to be very, very effective. And I believe it is, and I really should look into, I had some growing at one time, but I lost it, but, to really grow it because, it's so valuable. But I've also heard that, and I don't know the update on it, somebody might be able to look into it, is that black-eyed Susans may have similar properties, the root, as echinacea.
I don't know. I don't know that much about black-eyed Susans, and actually, and this might be the case for you too. A lot of the stuff that I do know about is because it's the things that I actually use to maintain health or to heal when I need to.
Right, and that's what, even for me, that's what's on the top of my mind is things I have personally used myself. This definitely, that's the way it works, because to, remember,
there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of plants, so to remember everything, even now, I will double check and go back and look at my books,
Right.
and see what's the properties of this, what's the constituents of this, and, it gives me an idea of, but even, I double check, especially if it's something I haven't used, it's not one of my go-tos.
Right. So, echinacea, it can be used as an antibiotic, but you said it won't kill the good gut bacteria?
What it does is it supports your immune system so that it helps balance it out so that the bad bacteria can't thrive.
Interesting. So elderberries, they support the immune system, but to my knowledge, they don't destroy any of the bacteria. Am I correct?
Well, this immune support is, I'm not sure about that. Something I'd have to look up. I do know elderberry is another one that's good for supporting the immune system.
Right, but I've never heard it as being used. Like, for instance, if there comes to where there's something going on or there's an infection in the body, my thing is we're going to hit it with oil of oregano. We're going to take the turmeric because the turmeric helps with the inflammation. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the elderberry syrup to go ahead and support the immune system. I mean, that's my protocol. Oh, and silver biotics. That's my protocol when there's something going on. It's just suck it to it,
Yeah. And does it work for you?
Yes. Yeah,
yep.
It does. As a matter of fact, it was really funny because one year, it was around Thanksgiving. My daughter came from Tennessee to visit. And at that time, my boys were going to a camp during that time. And my one son came home and he was sick. I mean, he was pretty sick. He had a fever and whatnot. And I landed up, I started him on the elderberry syrup, the silver biotics, the oil of oregano, the turmeric. Because he had the fever, I was using peppermint essential oil on the bottom of his feet, behind his ears, on the back of his neck, on his tailbone to get rid of the fever, which did go away. And then at the same time, because there were so many other people in the house, I started them on the elderberry syrup right away. And it was really funny because it was like this weird domino effect. It was like, he had all the worst symptoms. Like he couldn't eat, and there was this cough that went along with it, a sore throat. And it worked its way through the house. Randy, actually, my husband, is the only one who did not get sick. And it could be because he wasn't near my son when he had the fever.
Yep.
Everybody else got sick, but what the thing was that was cool about it is that it didn't last as long, and there were issues that other ones didn't have, like with the fever. Brett had the fever. Nobody else had a fever. And it was just like, as it went down the line, the less symptoms they were and the shorter it lasted. So that was pretty cool to see. You know, yeah. So yeah, my protocol does work, and I do. That's what I use, and that's what I do. And so, tell me, what about your protocol?
Wonderful. Well, now mine is preventative. Is I eat the best I can.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
I've started with raw milk, and that has been probably one of the best things I've ever done. I have never had so much hair growth
really?
In my life. I have never seen it grow so fast in my nails. So cool. It's like I gotta cut them weekly. I've never had that happen. I mean, like, my hair, to get an inch would take probably 2 years of hair growth for me.
Wow.
I've had over an inch of hair growth since December. That's about 6 months.
Do you have any source of vitamin B at all?
A vitamin who?
Vitamin B, the various vitamin Bs, because they deal a lot with the hair growth and the strengthening of the nail.
Yeah. So, it's amazing. So that's and I also, been doing, lemon water or cranberry juice water, every morning. 'Cause it alkalizes the body.
Right. Lemon juice is awesome. I've been doing some research on the liver and how we can support our liver so that we can avoid having to deal with the negative side effects of the insecticides, pesticides, and the glyphosate. And that came about from a show I did a couple weeks ago, that I had somebody on that was said, well, you know what, if you address the liver, you can address that. So I've been doing some research, and that's actually where I first learned about the dandelion in supporting the liver.
Yeah, and the good thing about the dandelion is it's very nutritious too. So it's it's full of potassium, and it doesn't deplete your body like prescribed diuretic would.
Right.
It nourishes as well as getting rid of stuff.
Right. And I used it as a diuretic for a while, but I didn't find it as effective as I actually use a blend of things, and I don't know everything that's in it, but one of the interesting ingredients is watermelon seeds. So, yeah. I've never heard of watermelon. I've heard of grapefruit seeds, but not watermelon. No, it's a supplement but it's composed of various things, and I just know that the one big ingredient that I can recall is the watermelon seeds. So I don't know that it has any dandelion in it, but because I did try the dandelion because I will retain water.
Yep.
So I mean, yeah, we have to retain some water, but if we listen to our bodies, we can tell when, you know what, this is not normal. I'm retaining too much water.
Right.
Like with my husband, and him driving a truck, he'll come home and there's times he can see that his ankles are swollen because he's just retained too much water. Retaining too much water is not healthy. Right.
My other go-to is, now I do it every other day, is nettles. And there are times I slack off, but nettles is my go-to herb. That's what we would term my herbal ally.
Right.
Which is also good, very good for the kidneys. And very
nettle is awesome.
Very nutrient rich too.
Oh yeah.
And so
I remember when I started drinking it, I was brewing it on a daily basis, and because I saw Susan Weed doing it and Rosemary Gladstar, they all had.
I learned it from Susan Weed, yeah.
Yeah, so they would have their jar of the stinging nettle, and it's excellent. It tastes nasty as all the dickens, but I definitely felt a difference in my body and the stamina. I had more energy.
Right.
I felt more alive. I felt, I wanted to do things. I don't know. I can't totally explain it. Maybe you can explain it better than I can, how it makes you feel.
But it's just so full of nutrients and minerals, trace minerals. It's really good for anemia, and that's why I started into it, because I had low iron, because of what JP talks about, the lung, the candida, really was taking over my body, so that it was I found out recently that that can also feed on iron, and that's why my iron was so low. And so that had really kept me, kept my iron levels up. But since I've started making my body more alkaline, I don't seem to need as much nettles. And so what we are talking about to tell people is called an infusion, which was termed by Susan Weed, is taking a jar, a quart jar, filling it up with, well, she says an ounce, but I trust my intuition, and I dump in as much as I think I need, which could be like a cup or a half a jar of the herb, and then you pour boiling water over it. I do that before I go to bed, so in the morning, and so it's steeped all night, and I'll have that in the morning or throughout that day. You strain it. I used to use a coffee press. That works pretty good.
Right. They actually, my daughter got me a teapot that's an infuser, where it's got the lid on top of it, and there's a little receptacle that you put the herbs into. It's actually really cool that you put the herbs into. Yeah, and it just sits, and then you fill up the teapot with the boiling water and stick that in there and just let it sit in there. It's actually really cool. You know where she got it? From Avon.
Oh my goodness. Good old Avon.
Who would have known? But
right.
Before, I was doing it like you. But, you don't have to let it sit overnight. Correct me if I'm wrong, but an infusion is normally 8 hours?
Well, yeah, that's why I do it overnight, because it's easier.
And you can.
It's usually at least 8 hours, so.
You're right.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, because I know even with, like, when I do my sprouting, you got to let the seeds soak in the water for like 8 to 12 hours, and I'll just do it before I go to bed and just tend to it in the morning. So I could see an infusion just doing the same thing. And it's not going to hurt anything. If anything, it's just going to make it more powerful.
Right. And then what we do is, the compost, the leftovers, my mom will rinse the jar out and feed the plants with it, because it's good for the plants too, for the house plants.
Right. And then do you dump the herbs into your composting?
Yeah, you can do that too, or you can sprinkle the leftover herb in your plants too, because then that will get incorporated in the soil, and that's good for the plants.
And now with infusions, if we're going to talk infusions, I had seen a video where, like, say you were going to go ahead and do a marshmallow root infusion.
Oh, that sounds good.
And marshmallow root is good for the mucous membranes, if I'm correct.
Yes, it's a muculent. It's which means it's very softening. Yeah, if you would make a salve out of it, it would be soft on your skin. It would have that viscous texture. A marshmallow, anything a root, you want to simmer. A fusion is for leaves and stuff, but your root you want to simmer for a while.
Now,
to actually get the good properties out of it.
Now, from the one video that I had watched, she was saying because it was a root, instead of doing it in hot water, you use cold water.
Wow, I've never heard of that. That goes against all my training. That roots, yeah.
Well, see, this is the thing too, is that, this is another thing that people need to be warned about, is that you can't believe, you want to make sure that if you're doing research online, that you have a reputable resource to go to so that you know that you're getting the truth. Like with Comfrey forever has been, well, actually, you got herbalists who are on the fence. Some say, use it internally. Others say, no, don't use it internally. But I watched a video recently, and Rosemary Gladstar used it internally did you see that one at all, Heidi?
No, but I am familiar with the Comfrey controversy. And what happened, it was a scientific study where they isolated a constituent, which is, part of the chemical makeup of a plant. And they fed that extract, if you would, to, rats. And they developed, some toxicity or something. So therefore they were saying that Comfrey internally is not good for you. Susan Weed has been drinking Comfrey for years. That's part of her infusion routine. She alternates between nettles, red clover, Comfrey, and oats, wild oats. Is usually her main four, I think, that she recommends. So that's one of those, that's why it's such a controversy, is because of the scientific study that was done.
Right, and if I'm not mistaken, there was just that one component, and it had a negative effect on the liver, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and that constituent was separated from the rest of the plant, so.
Right. And
that
from
is,
the video that I saw, I think there were like four or five herbalists on there. Oh, excuse me. The only one I was familiar with was Rosemary Gladstar. But,
right.
Rosemary Gladstar's on there, that's enough for me,
Yeah, me too.
Apparently she had gotten into an accident. And I don't remember if it was a car accident or what. I was kind of multitasking.
Yeah, something like that. I think she did, yeah.
And her legs were pretty messed up. And I think she was told that she, I'm sorry, my husband's over here messing with a tablet and I'm trying to figure out what he's doing. I think maybe he's trying to disconnect me. Oh! He made it so that I could reach the keyboard if I needed to on the laptop. Thank you, honey. I love you. Okay, so anyway, I don't remember what was going on, but she had one leg that was pretty messed up. And if anybody knows anything about Comfrey, it's also known as knit bone. It's a very strong herb. It will heal broken bones.
Yep.
But one thing that was really interesting in this video that I watched was there was a man who was drinking it because of a herniated disc. Yeah, so I found that real interesting. And my husband recently was working out in the yard, and he kind of twisted his foot or his leg the wrong way, and he had surgery on his knee like years ago, and it's been bothering him, and he was taking turmeric, and I make the healing salve, he was putting that on there, and he was saying, you know what, I think it might be a tendon or something because it's not responding to what I'm doing. So I'm trying to get him, I'm like, well, why don't you try taking some of this Comfrey internally, and see what that does. But he was like, oh, I'm going to bed. I'm not going to deal with that right now. So I'm like, he'll let me do a poultice if I do a poultice.
No, I was just going to say, poultices work too. Also, that's what a lot of people use it as poultice that way. But, personally, do your homework but a lot of herbalists have been using it for a long time internally, so.
Well, that's what Rosemary Gladstar said, and she was receiving some really negative feedback about this leg of hers, about it not being the same, and she started drinking the Comfrey, and they were like totally surprised. She said she's having no problem with it to this day. No,
I think she's doing quite well, actually.
Well, yeah. Rosemary. Of course she is.
I've heard amazing stories of comfrey. I know of a friend that healed, actually, I believe it was a MRSA type infection that was healed naturally with comfrey and honey, real honey.
Did you say a muscle?
MRSA infection, which is a antibiotic resistant type infection.
Okay.
That has come about in hospitals and stuff because of the overuse of antibiotics.
Right.
It's called
and
MRSA.
comfrey helps with that?
Yeah, that's what my friend used it for. Because he had to open, what can happen with the MRSA is you can have open wounds, sores. So they use the comfrey compresses to heal the open wound. And he also took copious amounts of real honey, raw honey, which is considered natural antibiotic if the bees have not been fed sugar water.
Right.
A practice of the larger companies is to feed the bees sugar water.
Okay, we have to take a break, but before we go, I want to know, now, the thing I've heard about comfrey is not to use it on an open wound because it regenerates skin cells so fast that if you have an infection in there, it will seal the infection inside. And I actually saw it with my daughter who was down here, went to New Orleans, had flip-flops on. It was raining outside, and the flip-flop scraped a sore on the top of her foot. When she came back, I used some peroxide to clean it up and then put on some of the healing salve that I make, which contains comfrey, and it actually sealed the infection up in her foot.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of curious as to, how this person was using comfrey on an open wound and not, he was fine, didn't end up with an infection.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly, how that was, how they did that. I was wondering if they may have waited too, maybe for the wound to start healing.
Right.
On its own, and so that it wasn't, that it didn't heal over. I have heard of that happening. People use it, on comfrey on animals that have been castrated. And
Ooh.
Because those need to drain, the wound needs to drain. And
right.
If you put the comfrey on, it heals it up too quick.
Right.
So it might depend on it, like a small scratch would probably be alright, but if it's something that needs to stay open to air, it may not be a good thing.
Right, but then again, we can go back to what we had talked about earlier, that everybody's different.
Exactly, because turmeric works great for some people. My mom was using it 6 to 7 months and she developed a rash. Right. And my gut told me that it was a turmeric. I've looked it up and I have seen stories that support that's a possibility.
Well, that's like, go on.
Because she has what turmeric is done. It's a warming herb. It increases circulation, but it also increases heat in the body. And being that most elderly people have a dry constitution and are on blood thinners and things like that, it probably that's why she had a reaction to it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's just like valerian root, which is used to help relax and for people to sleep. In Rosemary's Gladstar's book that I have, she had made a comment about valerian root that, unless you're one of the rare people who have an issue with it, and actually both my daughter and I we cannot take valerian root.
No, I can't. I'd be bouncing off the walls. It does not relax me at all.
Oh, no,
at least the last time I used it, it didn't. I'm like, oh, this is not working for me.
No, it kind of makes us sick to our stomachs.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't literally get sick, but we feel sick. Our stomachs are going, no.
It is very bitter, so that could be why, so.
Well, I don't know. We were taking it in a capsule. It's not like I had even bought some in the powder so I can make my own capsules with it, and I just couldn't. But it's 7:04. I'm echoing here, and we need to take a break. And when we come back, essential oils. We'll be back right after this music break.
Well, we are back.
Welcome back. You're listening to It's Your Life, Live Its Fullest. I am your host, Joyce Wheeler. Today is July 1st, 2016. You're listening to Haggy Shack Radio and Will Spirit Radio. Please remember we are listener donated. We are listener sponsored. So please click on that donate button and show us some love. Heather, you back with me? Heather, I'm
yes,
sorry.
I'm back with you.
You know, I cannot look at your name because I see Feather and I think Heather.
That has been to me a lot. People say Heather Feather. Yeah.
Well, as long as I don't see the feather, I'm okay, Heidi. But when I see the feather, I think Heather. So I am so sorry. So
that's all right. I was just looking at the radar to see, and of course, I'm splitting the weather again. I seem to have a habit of doing that. Anyway.
So let's talk about essential oils. Now, I want to just warn everybody ahead of time that this is going to kind of sound like a little bit of a debate, and to an extent it is. But Heidi and I thought it would be good that we do this on the air so that people can see two different perspectives, and then they could judge for themselves what they wanted to do. And we thought that was best, didn't we?
Yep. Can we touch a little bit first on fire cider? Because I think that really kind of leads into it.
Please do.
It kind of sets my foundation. Okay. Fire cider, when we've talked about, you've heard us talk about Rosemary Gladstar. She's a long-time herbalist. She actually started Mountain Rose Herbs and currently lives in Vermont and works out of Sage Mountain. Although I think she might be moving to the south soon, but I'll have to look that up. But anyway, she has written several books, and in one of her and I think more than one of her books, she has a recipe called fire cider, which is a vinegar made with root herbs. Some of there is horseradish, garlic, ginger, turmeric. It's a good all around tonic for when you're to be sick. So anyway, so she named it fire cider, and for 20, 30 years now, other herbalists and other cottage making herbalists, cottage size, small size, have been making this fire cider and selling it at farmers markets and whatnot. A few years back, this supposedly small company called Shire City started making the fire cider, and they trademarked the name. And so that other herbalist could not sell their fire cider.
Right.
And they actually brought lawsuits against a group of small herbalists, local community herbalists, that was selling fire cider to their community. And there is a link that we can put in the chat so that you can all read about it in detail. But the thing about the Shire City is they believe that they have big backers to be able to to bring lawsuits against people.
Right. That's just big industry, though.
Yeah. So this is what happened. So I believe they won the lawsuit. They countersued Shire City because they want the fire cider to stay open source, so to speak. That's the only term I can think of that works, is to keep it open source.
As it should be.
As it should be. So I just wanted to touch on that because I think that's very important, because that's, in a way, I see the same thing happening with essential oils.
Okay, can you give me some kind of example as how you see the link between the two of them?
The link is, there have been founding herbalists, modern day herbalists, starting with Juliet de Bacchi-Levy, who is considered the grandmother of modern herbalism, and others that came after her, that have been fighting tirelessly to make sure that herbalism stays open source. And many herbalists use essential oils in a lot of their products. Not all herbalists use essential oils, but many of them do. And they also use similar names. For example, Fees oil.
Right.
Is one of them that is a mixture of herbs, basically, that was used during the plague. The thieves were able to steal from people because they had these mixtures of herbs and they didn't get sick from the plague.
Right.
So this remedy has been around since the Middle Ages.
Right.
And then
You said that Young Living, which is the only essential oil company I know that sells these oil, you said that they've got a patent on it?
Joyce, your sound's way
yeah,
low.
I barely hear you.
Wait, low?
Joyce.
That was better.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's better.
All right, so what I had said was that, if I'm not mistaken, Heidi, from our conversation that we had the other day, you said that Young Living is the only one that has thieves oil and they have a patent on it?
They have a I believe it's a trademark.
Okay. All right. A trademark. Okay.
A trademark, I guess, is not, I'm not sure the legalities, but I'm something similar, that they're the only ones that can sell, thieves oil because they have trademarked it. And according to the information that I found, that this woman, a small herbalist, has been making and selling a vinegar extraction of thieves. And they have sued her for copyright infringement.
Really?
Yes.
You didn't tell me that last time we talked. You
I
were
don't.
saving that for the show, weren't you? Uh-huh. Got some new ammunition, don't you?
I thought I did, but, maybe I didn't. I'm sorry if I didn't. It was.
No, it's not a problem. I'm just teasing you.
I know. That's okay.
All in love. All in love.
Yeah. It's all to agree and disagree.
Right.
So.
No, but you didn't tell me that, so that's really interesting to know. So what is, the issue exactly? Okay, I could see that, what you're saying about the fire cider and about the essential oils and the comparison between them. But first off, it's like this is a corporation type thing. You've got these corporations that they're staying in business and they want power. They're power hungry. So no matter what, you're going to always have some corporation that wants to come in and wants to go ahead and say, no, you know what, this is ours, because it's just total greed. Instead of saying, you know what, everybody will make fire cider. Everybody makes thieves oil. There's enough for everybody to go around, but they're not doing that. But you have more of a problem with essential oils than just that. So why don't you tell us what you see are some of the cons of essential oils?
Okay. For one, and I want to just say, I think essential oils have their place and that they have good value. But what I don't think most people are aware is the copious amounts of product, of plant material that it takes to make an essential oil. from a little bit of research, and it differs from wherever you're looking, but in general, rose oil is the most. It takes about 60 roses to make 1 drop of essential oil. In general, it takes about 150 pounds of lavender flowers to make a pound of lavender oil.
Right.
It takes about 256 pounds of peppermint leaves to make 1 pound of peppermint oil.
Right. And actually, from what I'm looking at, Wellness Mama says it takes thousands of pounds of roses to make 1 pound of rose essential oil.
Right.
Okay, so why is this an issue?
Because you think about that. Would you go out and eat, say you want, okay, because some people do eat roses or make tea with roses. Let's use tea example. Would you go out and take 60 roses to make a cup of tea and drink that?
No.
Okay. That's essentially, no pun intended, essentially that's what you are doing when you use 1 drop of a rose oil, is that you are, if you decided to ingest it, right, which I'm not recommending, don't recommend it, and most herbalists will not recommend ingesting essential oils because of that point. They are so strong. They are such a high concentrate that they are almost like a pharmaceutical. They are very powerful.
Right. I totally agree with you there. And I would recommend that if anybody were to consider taking essential oils orally, that they do their research very closely, meaning look at multiple sources, because I have been doing some research lately and actually finding that if you go to one website or read one article or one blog post, and it might say that, oh, you can adjust peppermint oil, just go ahead and stick a few drops under your tongue and that's perfectly fine. And you go, oh, okay, well, the site says that that's fine. But you might go to another site and they might say that ingesting 2 drops of peppermint oil underneath your tongue or in your mouth is not a good thing to do. Now, from all the research that I have done, which is hours and hours of research on essential oils, you should dilute them. So you could dilute them with a carrier oil, such as a coconut oil, and you could also put them into a capsule, or you can add them to your food. Like I was telling Heidi the other day, when that's another part of our protocol is when somebody gets sick and they're really dealing with congestion and a sore throat, I will make a peppermint and eucalyptus tea, and I will put a few drops of peppermint oil in there. But I'm not they're not actually ingesting pure essential oils. It's being diluted. Go ahead.
Most for as long as I know, essential oils were always used as aromatherapy. It's fairly recent, I don't know, time, it's kind of a weird thing for me, but that I've really noticed the push to ingest them. And I have spoken with, a couple of my mentors, about essential oils and the ingestion of them, and they do not recommend it. They do not recommend it.
Not even culinary, like putting on food?
No, they, it should be because of the potency of it. If,
Right.
One of my feelings is, they say 100% pure essential oil, right? Now, knowing that it takes copious amounts of plant material to make a small amount of essential oil, I'm sure that some of these companies are cutting it. And to cut an oil is to put it several drops or more of the essential oil in with a carrier or another oil. So what could happen is you're bobbing along and you say somebody's ingesting an essential oil, and perhaps this has been cut, and then suddenly they get a pure essential oil that's never been cut. That could be a big issue.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there could be a reaction there.
Well, yeah, and I could sure tell you about that because, like I said earlier in the conversation, we were talking about like our protocol for healing. I mentioned oil of oregano. You know, the oil of oregano that we have is cut with a carrier oil, so it's not so strong. But I had a friend of mine who ordered an oregano oil, and she was talking about how strong it is. And I said, well, is there a carrier oil mixed with it? And she said, no. And I said, that's your problem. I said, you need to go ahead and cut that with something. You know, I personally agree with Heidi on the part that you shouldn't ingest a pure essential oil, but I disagree with her on the fact that you should ingest them at all. I feel that they should be cut with something, but I also feel that you should educate yourself, just like with anything. If you're going to use a product, if you're going to eat something, if you're going to take pharmaceutical medicine, if you're going to use anything, do your research, do your homework, find out what the heck am I putting in my body? What are the side effects? You know, how is this going to affect me in a negative way? Don't you agree, Heidi?
Well, absolutely. Definitely do your homework. But the other thing with, you know, essential oils is, again, the amount of plant material. And you think, you know, how many acres and acres of land is you using to grow these plants? Are they organic? Are they being sprayed? How much water does it take? You know, and for some places, water is a vital resource. Right now we're in a drought, and I just put the storm, so we're not going to get any rain. And, personal note, sorry. But, but you know, water is a major resource, and sometimes that's a major issue. You know, especially like lavender needs a warm, you know, it's a Mediterranean plant and needs a warm environment to grow. We do have it here in the north, but, you know, it doesn't flower until late, and you gotta have those plants growing year round. So that tells me they're probably grown in places that are typically dry and arid, where the water is being pumped out of the rivers. So to me, that's the larger picture.
Right,
that's
but I think at the same time, you know, we want to look at how things are grown. You know, let's look at our food source. You know,
it all goes hand in hand.
Where is that coming from? What about the waters that's being used for that? I know that the two biggest companies that I know of and that I've looked into are Young Living and doTERRA, and of course they're both multi-level marketing essential oil companies. So, but I know from the research I've done, they are either growing these herbs themselves. So it's like they're not actually going out and foraging them. So they're not harming the earth. They're not harming the plants. They're actually keeping them going. And then some of them are also going to countries like France. Lavender grows wonderful in France. They're going to France and they're paying these farmers to grow this lavender so that they can harvest it and they can use it for the oils. And that's a good thing because they're giving back to communities. They're supporting these farmers. They're supporting these families. And I don't see that as a bad thing. And I do realize that there can be a depletion on the earth, but that's with anything that we're doing is we can be depleting the earth's natural resources, the vitamins and nutrients it has to give.
But actually, I would think that we can live without essential oils. We can live without them. They're basically fairly new. The essential oils that were made before, the essential oils that were made like 100 years ago were made by putting plant material into oil over and over again until it became very odorous. And so there is definitely issues, and the way nowadays they can be hot pressed, they can be cold pressed, they can be steam. It's usually a distillation process. Like I said before, and I don't hate essential oils. I think they have their place, but I'm seeing such a push in the market now to get people using them that big multi-marketing to get essential out there, that to me is a big red flag. I don't like that idea, and I don't want that kind of corporate push in my reality.
Okay, what would you say, what's the difference between an herbal push for people pushing the herbs on somebody versus pushing the essential oils? I mean, personally, I see no difference. And again, we're still talking about using the earth to grow these herbs as we are using them to take an essential oil, which is more concentrated and stronger, like you said, but you also use less of it. I mean, we get a small bottle of peppermint oil and it lasts us for months. I have a bag of peppermint leaves and I make tea out of it. It doesn't last me as long. What's the difference?
The difference is I think it's about 16 pounds of peppermint leaves to make an ounce of peppermint oil. The difference is those 16 pounds of leaves can be used in tea bags. They can be used as, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Those peppermint leaves could be put to different uses other than just an essential oil to grow that amount. That's the issue I have with that. There are some companies out there that are pushing herbals in their products that I really don't like the way they're doing it. Hopefully, in the long run, it will wake people up to the use of the herbs, the proper use of the herbs, that hopefully they will get out there and educate themselves so that they, make educated decisions and learn about keeping our wild places wild, and that, we don't need as much as we think we need. I think sometimes it comes down to
greed,
yeah. Greed, that the people that just have that greed mentality and they don't care who they roll over.
Right.
And I love my herbalist community. I don't want to see it go the way of Germany, where you have to go get a prescription to take St. John's wort that's growing right outside your door. Would I do that? No. But that's the way it is in some European countries. I don't want to have that happen because the agenda of pushing things the way they shouldn't be pushed.
But that's what they're trying to do. They don't want us to have access to the natural remedies, because if we have access to the natural remedies and we're using everything that's natural, which they cannot patent, by the way, if they can't patent it, they can't make money from it.
But
so
they can trademark it. It's almost
right?
the same thing. You trademark a name, and then you're making it more difficult because name recognition is big.
Right, but at the same time, it's like we were talking about the other day. I mean, we could take the fire cider and we could just add one more ingredient, or we can omit one ingredient, and then it's no longer fire cider.
But it's the principle. It's the principle of responsible herbalism. It's the principle of
Right,
it.
but it's not us who are doing this. It's not a matter of us. It's a matter of corporations. It's a matter of big business.
Yeah, but if we buy from the corporations, we're saying yes with our dollar. We're saying yes to this when we buy from them.
You know what? I totally agree with you. I think we're saying yes when we go to the doctor. I think we're saying yes every time we take a pharmaceutical drug. I totally agree with you on that level. But what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do to stop big corporations, pharmaceutical companies from coming in and saying you can't use essential oils, you need a prescription to use any kind of herb. I don't care if it's grown in your backyard. I mean, they're telling people that they can't grow gardens out in their front yard.
Oh, yeah.
You got to tear it up. I mean, so it's not like this is anything that's directed at the herbal company, at herbal medicine or essential oils. It's everywhere. It's everything. It's all control. It's all about money.
I think you're right. It's a microcosm of the macrocosm. It's definitely, but I think we have to really do our due diligence and be careful of what we say yes to, whether, what we purchase.
I agree, but I also think that it's important for, like, why I do this show. That's one of the reasons I do this show. I want to educate people that we have choices. We don't have to sit there and be spoon-fed the garbage. I don't usually say this word, but for sake of the way I feel right now, I'm going to feed us this crap and tell us that this is okay to swallow when it's not.
Right. We're basically on the same page here. We just have, I think, different ways of approaching and different viewpoints.
And that's fine.
And that we can talk about it, and hopefully, like you said, in the end, that people will educate themselves.
Right, and I think that's the most important thing, and it doesn't matter whether you're using herbs, whether you're using essential oils, whatever you're using. You need to educate yourself on any of the adverse side effects you might have, like licorice root. People who have high blood pressure are said not to take licorice root. Right. There's certain herbs that if you're pregnant, Dunquay. I use Dunquay. And women who are pregnant should not use Dunquay.
Right. That's
so.
why. And there's a lot of wonderful online herbalism courses where you can learn about the herbs.
And free courses too.
Free courses. There's free information. There's Mrs. Gree's Herbal. It is online, open source, free. It's one of the oldest herbals books.
Also, learningherbs.com.
Yep, and they have games that you can play with your children. Of course, Rosemary Glasstar, Susan Weeds, they all have online courses you can take.
There's a lot of free ebooks on there too.
Yep. And just going through Susan Weed's website, you don't need to take the course. You can do it for free. She's got all kinds of information out there.
Yeah, she does.
Free videos and, there's so many ways you can educate yourself,
Sure. And Herb Mentor, which you actually have to pay like $6 or something for, and that's only to keep the weirdos out. It's totally worth it. And you got Susan Weeda's on there, Rosemary Gladstar's on there. There's multiple herbalists who are on there who have anywhere from 10 to 30 years experience in herbalism. And you could ask questions and, depending upon who knows what, they'll answer your questions. They have videos, and actually Herb Mentor is on YouTube. And if you go to Herb Mentor, you can learn a bunch of different things just by watching the videos. Another one is, Heidi, you familiar with the bulk herb store with Shoshana?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, the Bulk Herb Store. They're located in Tennessee, and Shoshana does a lot of their videos. You can find that on YouTube for free.
Yep.
So those are the ones that I trust. You know, like Heidi said, Susan Wheat also has a lot of YouTube videos that are out there. There are some others that I would be skeptical of because they're. What's laughing for?
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I was reading what Colleen wrote.
Oh, what'd she say? What did I miss?
I said, well, the $6 apparently doesn't work on keeping the weirdos out. You got in, didn't you? And then I went on to say we're all weirdos at Wolf Spirit Radio and Haggy Shack Radio.
Right, but we're talking about the other weirdos. The ones that don't fit in.
Oh, you mean the trolls?
Yes, them. How come I can't see that? For some reason I didn't see that comment. Where'd it go? Oh, okay, I see that. That's good. That's real good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I couldn't help but giggle when I saw that.
Oh, I don't blame you. I would have giggled too. I just didn't see that. I was too busy doing who knows what. So anyway, anything else that we want to say in the way of essential oils?
Educate yourself.
I agree.
Support. I'm all for and supporting local business.
Me too.
Yeah, I'd say find the smallest business you can find that does essential oils, which is difficult, but I think, you know.
Well, you know, for me too, I mean, if I was going to go ahead and buy essential oils from a small business, I would really want to, just like, you know, the local farmers that I do business with, I want to be able to go to your farm. You know, I want to be able to see what you're doing. If you're not inviting me to come to your farm, there's something wrong.
Exactly.
Every farmer that I have met here in Louisiana and I have bought stuff from, I have been invited to go to their farm. So if I can't go to your farm, you're not asking me to go to your farm, there's something wrong. I'm worried about, you know, it's like you were talking about, Heidi, earlier, you know, about these big corporations moving in and just, you know, making it all about greed and all about money. I don't think it's just bigger corporations. I think that there are smaller people who are going ahead and taking essential oils and diluting them and selling them as pure essential oils. So I think it goes back to what you said and what I said earlier, is that you really need to educate yourself. You know, don't be ignorant. Question everything. Ask questions. We should always ask questions. And the one thing my mother taught me that I always kept with me and I really feel to be true, if something sounds too good to be true, odds are it is.
It is true. Yep.
Right. Right. So, you know, that's something you want. But, you know, it's like my husband's over here anointing himself with peppermint essential oil right now. He has this really funny look on his face that he often gets when he does that. But the thing is that I know that smell, you know, so it's like I'm sitting here thinking right now, you know, how can we educate people to know what to look for as far as essential oils? At this point, I don't think we can. I think it comes down to just having to educate yourselves and just don't be stupid. Don't be like, oh, well, this peppermint oil is only $6 and, you know, this one over here is $28. I'm going to take one for $6. What's the difference? You know, kind of question, why is this one only $6?
Right, right.
You know, I just, you know, I understand your concerns about the essential oils business. You know, totally. I have my questions as far as the way that companies are doing things and the authenticity into which they're doing them. But, you know, it just comes down to like what we were saying, just trying to educate yourself. And personally, you know, I do like using just herbs, but I do feel essential oils have their place.
And I agree. I believe lavender is my go-to. Panic attacks, I take a good sniff of that, and that calms me right down. And, like I said in the beginning, I said they do have their place, but we have to be very careful.
I agree. Which brand are you using for essential oils?
Right now I have, and I've had it for 2 or 3 years, because like I said, I don't pour it out of the bottle. I usually sniff it or put a little on my clothing.
Right.
It's Aurora Cascadia, I think it's pronounced. It's a Frontier company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of them and I've looked at them. As a matter of fact, I have a Frontier catalog sitting over here right in front of me.
Yeah, Frontier is recommended. Mountain Rose Herbs is recommended. They're United States companies. They do I know Mountain Rose does outsource materials out of the country just because it's where they can get the good organic, really grown herbs. So,
now, the Mountain Rose essential oils that they use, I've never used any of theirs.
No, I haven't either because Frontier ones are usually the ones that are on the store shelves in our co-ops and green grocery stores,
Huh.
So that's, they're readily available.
Right.
But there was something which is interesting is, I don't remember the percentage, but more people use alternative medicine than they use conventional medicine, according to Rosemary Gladstar.
I find that really hard to believe. I just talking to people I talk to. But
yeah, I know. It seems hard to believe. But.
Yeah, before we started doing the show, I was visiting with a neighbor of mine who is actually just opening up to doing things naturally. And her son-in-law was there, and he's suffering with gout. And he asked me about how to deal with it naturally, and I said, well, that's something I never dealt with. I never had anybody ask me about, so I really don't know what to say about it. But they're taking all kinds of stuff. Her daughter's been here. I've talked to her. She's been having steroid shots in her foot for the past freaking year.
How old is she?
Oh gosh, I don't know. She's in her early 20s.
Oh, wow. I'll let you in on it's not really a secret, but my dad was a pharmacist. So I grew up in the medical industry and actually saw it change. So to see, when I saw the big pharmacy companies come in and knock out the small local pharmacists, So I've seen a lot of that. So that's what I'm seeing with these big corporations with, it's the same idea.
Somebody in the chat room just mentioned, are you familiar with the supplement company Now?
Yes. I've seen it popping up.
Because somebody just said, now we use their supplements, but I had no idea they have oils. Did you?
I have seen it and I have not researched them. I have not heard of them before.
Neither have I.
So there's some research for us, Joyce.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the oils, like I said, I'm familiar with their supplements.
Yeah, they do. I saw the oils, today I went to, my green grocer and they had the Now. They said, oh, we carry Now essential oils.
Yeah, when did this come to be? I don't know.
I don't know, so we'll have to look into that.
Yeah, we will. Now essential oils. I'm making a notation of this. That's going to be some research. I had no idea they carried oils.
Right.
But then, but then because we take so many different supplements because we have to. Our earth is depleted of the nutrients and the vitamins that we used to have, that even though we eat all organic, it doesn't matter. We're still not getting the nutrients and vitamins that we need, so we take various supplements. And now is one of the brands that you will find that we do have and that we do use. But because we use so many of them, we don't buy directly, like you were talking, like a co-op or a greengrocer. We actually order from Lucky Vitamin because we found that they have the cheapest prices. And you know what, people, Lucky Vitamin people, you have to pay me for saying your name. I'm giving you free advertising. But seriously, I mean, you know, they do have really good prices, and if you order like, I think it's like $49 or $69 for the product, you get free shipping, and we always order more than that, but, you know, so because of the way that we order, I've never seen I haven't even seen them in our health store.
I think they're I'm not sure, but I think they're fairly new. You know, I don't know, it's raising kind of a little bit of a red flag over here. I'm kind of slowly itching it up, going, hey. Yeah, and I'm not really big on supplements. That's another thing I'm not really big on because I think you start to rely on them too much. Although I must say I have been, along with the raw milk, I've been using a fermented protein product, which I think is helping along with the raw milk.
Yeah, but when I'm talking about supplements, I'm talking about natural things like milk thistle, zung quai, you know, turmeric. I'm not talking about some manufactured. I'm talking about, you know, vitamin E, vitamin D3, ashwagandha.
Well, you know, you can go to your supermarket and buy turmeric root.
Yeah, but, you know, I get the turmeric powder and we make capsules. I make a capsule that...
You can make a tincture. Go to your health food store, whatever type of store you have in your neighborhood, and buy your root and put it in and make a tincture.
But what's the difference?
It has your energy in it. You're the one that made it.
But I'm still making the capsules with the turmeric powder.
Well, that's true too, I suppose. But, you know, a lot of it's all about energy, putting your own energy into what you make.
And I agree because, you know, water absorbs our emotions and our feelings and our intentions, and it, you know, can really be very powerful. Where with me just making the capsules and just using this powder, you know, how much of my intentions is really going into it. So that's a really interesting thought. Well, thank you for that. I'll have to.
You're welcome. Yeah, like Colleen says, eat your weeds and, or make medicines out of your weeds, either way.
Yep.
You know, and I believe, you know, sometimes what you need is right outside your door. That's one of my beliefs, that you walk, especially, even if you live in the city, look for a green space, place. Look what's growing there. It may be even a tree, because trees have properties too.
Well, I've heard that when you walk barefoot in your yard or your garden, that the plant life, the earth, recognizes what your body needs and starts growing it.
Wow. That's cool.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I do know that we get the negative ions from the earth that we need by walking barefoot. There's a lot of benefits to walking barefoot.
So I'm wondering why we have a lot of poison oak.
Yeah, I wonder why we have a lot of frickin' ants down here that make me keep my shoes on.
We got poison ivy. So yeah.
Well, we do too, but I mean the ants down here are so horrible. I wear my flip-flops. I'm standing in the driveway, and I still have some ant crawling up on my foot biting me. And I'm going, excuse me, you're invading my territory. I'm not invading yours. You know, it's like, what's up with that? And these ants down here in the south, they
bite like the dickens.
You have the big ones, don't you? You have the real big ones?
No, the little itty bitty
the little ones.
Fire ants?
No, it's not just the fire ants. It's even the other ants that are really small. They hurt like the dickens. They're horrible. I mean, I lived in Chicago. I was born and raised there. I walked around barefooted every single summer. I never had shoes on. Never ever had shoes on. I come down to the south, you hear about these people down here being barefooted. They're not barefooted. There's just too many ants, and you just get these ant hills that just come up. And you get rid of one and they come someplace else. And they're just all over the place, and it's like, it's kind of depressing, because I can't go outside and walk around barefooted. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know I have a lot of St. John's wort growing around me, which I just love. I've been harvesting it and using it in plant as in dye because it makes a great dye, and it's just been like, this is so lovely.
That's another herb that there's been some controversy over.
Oh yeah, well,
St. John's wort.
It's invasive, and it can cause, for some people, it can cause sun sensitivity. But I think in a lot of cases you find that people, like anything, can be overused.
Right, definitely.
And I think you'll find that people are overusing this, so they have a sensitivity, like not everybody can do the same thing and use the same things,
Right.
You gotta find what works for you.
Right, and when you're doing new things too, you should start out with a little bit. Don't start out with a large, huge, a traditional dosage. Start out small. It's like with the essential oils, if you're going to use them on your skin, try a small patch before you use it. And because you mentioned, Heidi, about the sun sensitivity, there are various essential oils that you go out into the sun with them, and you're going to have a adverse effect, especially your citrus oils.
Right.
So that's
citrus,
something. Yeah. So that's something that you want to be aware of. Again, it comes down to do your homework. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Heidi. Go find it out for yourself.
Yep, there's lots of education, and so dyeing has been a lot of fun because I know the last time we talked about dyeing, and I'm ordered some silk, so silk scarves and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to playing with that and seeing what I can come up with. I'm really kind of excited about that because I have all kinds of ideas.
Have you? I sent you a message about the butterfly PT. Have you looked into that?
I did that. I wish I could grow it. I think it would be interesting to grow the tea.
Are you good? What are you laughing at? What's Colleen saying now?
She's on a roll today. First time I've ever heard anyone say that dyeing was a lot of fun. I know. I was in the grocery store and I went, I'm going to go home and dye, and everybody just looked at me like, I dye fabric, that is. I said.
Well, maybe Colleen, did you not see Beetlejuice? I mean, they're having pretty much fun.
So, true.
Oh man. That's good. Now that she threw us off. What were we talking about?
Yeah.
Dyeing? Yeah, we were talking about dyeing. I asked you about the butterfly pea.
Oh yes, the butterfly. It sounds very interesting. In fact, I may have to try some. That's not. I know it's not local, but that's like so too. I think it would be fun if I could grow it. Like I'm growing the Japanese indigo.
Right.
Colleen
bought some. Colleen bought some. She tried it. Colleen, what do you think about the butterfly pea?
It's got a mild, not unpleasant taste. It's very pretty. And I can't wait to get some lemons because this blue butterfly tea is blue. But if you put lemon juice in it, it turns purple.
Yep.
So I'm thinking purple lemonade and blue lemonade would be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
But I did learn don't put turmeric in it because then it's green. And I kind of made like a smoothie out of it and put turmeric in it. So it was a green smoothie, which is, even though I love green, it's not all that appealing to me. But they're made of a pea flour.
Right.
From peas. I don't know if they're like the sweet pea plants that grow. Some say they're poison, some say they're not. I don't know. But they are a pea flour. So I don't know if you could, I suppose it would take a lot of research to see.
Right.
Because I've heard people say that you can eat those, because the sweet pea flour thingy grows a pod that looks like a pea.
Yep.
Huh.
And you can pick all those off the bushes and replant them, and they'll just go crazy. But you have to be careful because they'll choke out whatever they're growing up, if they're growing up another plant. But I would think it would take some research to see, are they poison, are they not? Because a lot of stuff we were told were poison. They used to think tomatoes were.
Really?
Yeah, because they're a nightshade,
That.
like potatoes are.
Huh. I never heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, they have, they have something in them, I can't remember the compound or the constituent, and they are part of the deadly nightshade family.
Interesting.
But a lot of things that we grow and eat are of the nightshade family as well.
Yeah.
Now that I've heard.
And the eggplant is too, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I think, are cucumbers and squashes and that sort of thing also?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I can't remember, but yeah, a lot of the stuff that we grow and eat are of the nightshade family.
Well, yeah, right, so.
Well, I'm doing something interesting with my flowers. I have not yet done my kombucha tea with them. And that is because I'm kind of hesitant because I've never used actual dry leaves to make my kombucha. I've always used tea bags, and I'm not exactly sure how much to use. I've been told by a Facebook group to use that one tea bag is approximately 2 to 3 grams. So I can go by that. But what I did do, because I have 2 bags here, is there is a woman at the local farmer's market who does tie-dye. So I gave her some of my flowers and asked her to do a sample tie-dye for me, because for my table that I have at the farmer's market, I want to do like a tie-dye. I'm going to take a king-size sheet and tie-dye it to go ahead and drape over the table. So
that sounds like fun.
Well, that was kind of your fault, Heidi. After you posted that image up on Facebook, you had me freaking searching around for all kinds of like hippie type stuff, going, whoa. And then I came across these indigo tie-dye things and I went, wow, that's kind of funky. I like that.
Yeah, I'm growing the indigo. I made a mistake the first time I tried it, but I got enough leaves now, so I'll be doing that soon, next couple of days. So
she's going to go ahead and tie-dye a bandana for me. And she really loves the fact that it'll turn purple with the lemon juice, so she's going to try to do some of that too. Yeah. So I'll see Sunday how that's going to look. And, I thought I inspired you to get some so you could dye some of your wool. Or maybe you want to dye some of that silk.
Yeah, I might try it. I got to put it on my wish list, so.
Yeah, Colleen, how much did you spend for your flowers? I think mine were like $5.99.
Yes.
I paid more than that, but then I also bought, and I can't tell you exactly how much because I don't remember.
I got 50 grams.
But I also bought something else with it. There's some sort of fruit that's all dried, big orange things. And they come in these cool little tins, because I like tins. So that probably added to the price as well. But I'm thinking I paid about $12, $13 for it.
That's not too bad.
But I love them. If for no other reason, then they're that pretty blue.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can make it purple or green.
Yep. Yep, the acid or alkaline, that's part of the dyeing process that, I use. You can use alkaline or acid water.
Well, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the kombucha with it, and I'm going to ferment it until the sugar is gone out of it, and I'm going to make a facial toner out of it because kombucha is great as a facial toner. And during my research, I found out that the butterfly pea flower is also very good for the skin. So you might look for that. You can just go to heavenlybodies7.com and check out our products there and watch for this comes on. Of course, Colleen isn't waiting it, so she'll be one of the first ones to try it.
I am, and I do want to say here that I love the facial mask that you sent me.
Ah, the SCABI. Oh.
Yes, Joyce used scobies in it, or you say scabies. So I was like, what the heck is this thing in here? Because it looks like tiny little fibers.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the heck's this stuff? But after I used it, and I used it as a scrub rather than a mask, and one, because I'm impatient and I'm not going to leave something on my face that long. Except makeup, which I used to use. But anyway, the way that it made my skin feel was what hooked me. Soft, supple, you guys don't know this yet, but when you get older, you kind of dry up.
You mean as we mature?
No, as we grow older.
No, we're a fine wine, Colleen. We're maturing.
Whatever. Anyway, we dry up. So it made me feel, my skin feel more elastic, more supple. Yeah, that word. Hydrated. So I was like, oh my gosh, and I went in the living room, feel my face. Well, my daughter was working with raw meat, so I said, not you. But I was just so excited about it. And Joyce, you know that I'm picky.
Yes, you are.
And I'm bitchy. But I wanted to let you know how much I love this. So Joyce is going to send me more, and
it's on its way.
I'm waiting on her to make the bathtub size, but in the meantime.
Yeah, I sent some of that to Heidi too. Heidi, did you try it?
What was that? Oh, I don't know in the shipping, but when it got to me, it looked like this tiny little ball of goop.
Yep, that's exactly what it looks like.
But I do like the facial scrub, and I usually do not like anything on my face.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really funny. Like, I don't like soap. I usually don't like soap and usually it's just water. And I'm very fussy that way. But I really like it. It feels good. I don't feel dried out afterwards.
Is it the nighttime scrub or
the nighttime scrub? I love that.
Yeah, that one's got the bentonite clay, the mango butter, aloe vera, and the shungite powders in there also.
Yep, the shungite. I think it's because of the mango butter, it's not drying, and usually that's what I find when I put stuff on my face.
Right, plus the aloe vera in there too.
Yeah.
So if you wanna, go ahead to heavenlybodies7.com and subscribe to our newsletter, so you can get updates, and we actually have special offers just for those who are signed up and subscribed for our newsletters. And
did you just update that page, Joyce, a couple days ago?
No, I didn't. I need to. Why?
Well, because I tried to get on there the other day because I was checking the links, like I put on your show page and stuff on Haggy Shack site.
Yeah.
And it said something about this page is not available or something.
Do you know which one it was?
It was the Heavenly Bodies one.
Just the heavenlybodies7.com?
Yeah.
Well, I'm on webs.com for that website, and they've got some issues, and I'm really kicking myself that I went with them.
Okay.
So it could have just been them.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know that. I could have done it, I guess, privately instead of on air. I'm sorry about that.
No, I appreciate you letting me know that because, this just kind of validates the fact that once my year is up with them, I'm going ahead and moving someplace else. Even though it's a huge pain in the butt and it's really time consuming, I've got to make sure that my customers can get to me when they need to and that my site's available all the time and not just some of the time, and I'm paying for this. So it's really disheartening to hear because there's been times when I went on there to go ahead and work on the site and I couldn't because of something that was going on with them. And I can't even get an email address to where I could do Joyce at heavenlybodies7.com. I can't even get that with the money I'm paying, and I think that pretty much stinks as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, you can go to heavenlybodies7.com, and if you can get on there, check us out. I will be adding some new stuff soon, I hope to. And also go to itsyourlifemag.com. Check out our Natural Living free digital magazine. And also we will be holding a Natural Living Fest here in Louisiana in October that I'm really excited about. So, yeah. And don't forget that you're listening to Haggy Check Radio, Wolf Spirit Radio. We are listener-sponsored radio, and we need to see your love. So go ahead and click on the donate button. Show us some love. It is Friday, July 1st, 2016. You've been listening to It's Your Life, Live It to the Fullest. I am your host, Joyce Wheeler, and my guest tonight has been Heidi Feather. Heidi, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it very much.
And Colleen, thank you so much for your input, for producing, and for just being Colleen. Love you guys. Talk to you later.
Great show. Thanks.
Bye.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.